So what shall it be? Do you join the Unity, or do you die here?
Join.
Die!
Join.
Die!
Yo, homie. That my briefcase?
I will never forget Collateral. Directed by the legendary Michael Mann and released in 2004, Collateral is part of an old tradition in film noir. We have the classic plots about cops and detectives and criminals, but Collateral has a story in the same vein as Double Indemnity, Strangers on a Train, or The Postman Always Rings Twice, where the focus of the story is a regular individual either plotting, being convinced, or coerced into a criminal act. Crime becomes more than ever the conductor of drama here, because in a crime story, the point of the criminal is to commit crime. The point of the cop is, ideally, to stop it. What is to be said of the civilian, the person caught in the crossfire? We love these stories about regular people in bizarre, dangerous situations. Most people are not cops, and most people are not criminals, so we are immediately put in the shoes of our protagonist, played by Jamie Foxx, because he's just a regular guy trying to work as a taxi driver. And he's not even a crazy taxi driver, he's cool, he's chill. And even though Collateral is part of this noir tradition, I don't usually think of classic noir or even classic neo-noir when I'm comparing and contrasting it. The movie I think shares the most similarities with Collateral is actually Training Day. Yeah, Training Day. Hear me out. Both films follow two protagonists. One is a quote-unquote hero, and the other is a villain being played against type by a beloved actor. The villain is far more experienced than the hero, both in life and professionally. The two protagonists are bound to each other and are, therefore, bound to be at odds with each other. These movies build up on the idea that what the villain is putting the hero through will end up in a confrontation. Collateral and Training Day take us through a story where we ask ourselves if the hero will escape or become just another one of the villain's victims. Both stories are morality tales about people who are isolated, stuck with each other, literally and metaphorically. They find themselves in closed spaces like a car, a bedroom, an empty restaurant, and even when they're outside, they are still basically alone, confined. They only have each other. And they are also isolated by time. Collateral happens over roughly 12 hours, while Training Day happens over 24 hours. This strict time frame enhances the severity of the events in each story. It gives it urgency. Time is passing super fast with all the chaos and violence, and that contributes to the isolation. Because whatever happens to these people, they are just small stories that will be forgotten by the next day. The mayhem is contrasted with its actual importance. Also, quick fun fact, Michael Mann directed Ali, released in 2001, while Antoine Fuqua directed a documentary about Muhammad Ali, released in 2019. It's just interesting to see that both directors worked on a similar wavelength, especially considering they are both well known for their technical, precise approach to action. And in Collateral and Training Day, they captured the intensity, the vibrancy, and the dark edges of an urban sprawl as a character. And speaking of the city, Jesus Christ, this movie looks so good. Mann works with cinematographers who know how to capture the night, and Collateral feels special. This movie's version of Los Angeles at night makes people pop, has this surreal glow. And remember, one of the original influences of classic noir was the German expressionist movement, so it's totally in character for the world to feel surreal. All the exposure, the low light capture, the flat LED lights inside the cab, they create a singular type of contrast. I've never been to Los Angeles. Hell, I'm not American, I don't live in the US. But to me, that's how LA looks in real life. I don't care. If I ever travel abroad and see that Los Angeles doesn't look like a Michael Mann film, I'm gonna call bullshit. These dreamlike textures actually kind of challenge the idea of the surreal to the point of turning around and making the city hyper-real, confusing the setting with the idea of the setting. Los Angeles doesn't look like that in real life, but through the lenses of a camera, it does. And what is a camera doing in a movie if not enhancing reality? Augmenting it even. The only time I felt like this watching a movie was, well, it was with Michael Mann's Miami Vice. Yes, another Michael Mann film. What the fuck do you want me to say? When I'm watching one of the guy's movies, it just presses all the buttons that make me happy. I know a lot of people don't like this movie, and I am a part of a very small group of people who do. Actually, scratch that. To be fair, I don't like Miami Vice. I just think it's the movie equivalent to the Second Coming of Jesus Christ, but that's besides the point. The reason why I'm bringing up Miami Vice is because of digital cinematography. Collateral was filmed both on film and digital. From this movie onward, Michael Mann was adopting digital and pushing it as far as he could. He was not trying to replicate what film stock looked like or could do. He was trying to show that digital had its own particularities and looks and capabilities. This period of Michael Mann's career that started with Collateral has been, for all intents and purposes, experimental. And honestly, I don't think the experiment is over yet. So whether we're talking about Collateral, Miami Vice, Public Enemies, or Blackhat, I don't think there's a single aesthetic aspect of these films that aged poorly. It's very hard to find anything that looks like these films, and it's certainly not because of amateurism. It's because only someone as skilled as Michael Mann could make a film look like this. His craft is always at its peak, the cutting edge, whether you like the film or not.
Shit. I think he's dead.
Good guess.
You killed him.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
Technology and interconnectivity play a very interesting role in this film. Vincent is also pretty sharp and on the cutting edge, with the briefcase and his phone, for example. But these things are also painfully rooted by the physical space they occupy, both inside and outside the narrative. The briefcase is a plot device as much as it contains an actual device given importance by the characters. Vincent freaks out when Max throws the briefcase away.
Oh, my representative. You are screwing with my work.
He can't just check the information out on his smartphone or get a backup on Google Drive. We are talking about 2004. We had no idea we were on the cusp of an era where smartphones weren't nearly as ubiquitous or versatile. And what was considered high-speed internet access at the time didn't come close to what high-speed means when you're watching this video. Unless you're somehow watching it during the apocalypse, I guess. Good luck? See this? This is the Mozambique drill, in which a shooter, upon being engaged at close quarters, shoots their target twice in the torso, and if that's not enough to kill the assailant, which is perfectly possible because of body armor, adrenaline, or drugs, they then take a shot to the head. This possibility of failing at neutralizing your target with 2 shots to the torso is one of the reasons why this method is also known as the failure drill. Realism aside, aesthetically speaking, this method is chosen by Michael Mann for how precise it is. Shooting someone this fast and this accurately is no easy feat, which is why Tom Cruise was trained exhaustively to become capable of doing that in a seemingly effortless manner. Performing the drill perfectly so many times is a sign of professional excellence, something that Michael Mann often explores in his characters. But check this out. He takes the shot, runs out of ammo, reloads, and then starts the drill over as if the previous shot hadn't been taken in the first place. 4 shots instead of 3. The point here is not just the method, the craft, but the cruelty behind it. Vincent neutralizes his targets with extreme prejudice, to the point of being obsessively sadistic. When he kills Barry Shabaka Hanley's character, he shoots him in the head 3 times. Even when he's not performing the drill per se, he's still following a pattern. Detective Ray Fanning, played by Mark Ruffalo, the honorary Latino, starts investigating the Vincent case as if he's tracking down a dangerous international assassin, which he is, but there is a fine line between assassin and serial killer, so the investigation acquires a different, darker tone. The detective is trying to stop an unstoppable force. By the way, what a cool fake out. The movie wants us to believe there will be an actual confrontation between Ray and Vincent, but this is not the point. The point is to show Vincent is ruthless and that Max is alone. The police can't help him. If anyone's gonna save Max, it's Max himself. This whole film is dedicated to Max's adaptation and evolution process. Being held hostage in a car? Flip the car. Vincent depends on the briefcase? Throw it away. Having a gun is the only thing resembling an advantage against your enemy? Steal a gun. Start shooting. Too afraid to call that girl? Call her anyway, man. You only live once. Michael Mann films are usually about people whose lives are dedicated to a craft. Excellent professionals who can't detach from what they are good at. The bank robber, the detective, the thief, the assassin, the hacker, the athlete. And then there's Max. Max is not exactly a classic Michael Mann protagonist. Not on the surface, at least. Vincent is good at killing people. Frank is good at stealing stuff. Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest boxers of all time. And Max? Max is a survivor. He's the working class guy who's good at making it to the end of the day. He's good at getting by. He's a dreamer. He's the guy who can make it in his routine in a system designed to keep him down. Keep him rooted, but he can make it. He can overcome the odds, even if that just means he'll wake up the next morning and do it all over again. Vincent hates the city. He despises civilization as a concept, but Max thrives in it. It helps a lot that the script wasn't originally written by Michael Mann, because you notice all of his obsessions and detail-oriented directing and storytelling adapting to a story about Max, who is a deconstructed version of a Michael Mann protagonist, while Vincent gets the classic treatment, to the point of also having a tragic, ironic ending. Just look at the final confrontation between Max and Vincent. They're in the subway, they are armed, the lights go out, and everyone shoots. Well, will you look at that? The Mozambique drill. 2 shots to the torso, 1 to the head. Perfectly executed. if it wasn't for the metal door between him and his target. Meanwhile, Max shot in a completely chaotic manner, putting no thought behind his action other than needing to kill a guy before he kills him first. Max survives because he becomes more like Vincent, while Vincent dies because he remains the same, crystallized and unchanged.
Hey, Max. A guy gets on the MTA here in LA and dies. Think anybody will notice?
Also, have I mentioned how funny this movie is? Seriously, it's not just doom and gloom and serious shit. There's a consistent sense of humor in this thing that makes all the serious parts hit much harder.
Hey, why don't you just take the cab?
Take the cab?
Yeah, you take it. I'll chill. I'll just chill. They don't even know who's driving these things half the time anyway, man. They never check or anything. Okay, so just take it. You, me.
You promise not to tell anybody, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Promise.
Get in the fucking car.
You
Get in the car.
Michael Mann protagonists often represent these somewhat ideal notions of masculinity. Not in an Arnold Schwarzenegger macho way, but in its own salt-of-the-earth existential manner. The ultimate male fantasy of sitting down at a diner late at night with the only person who understands you and telling them about your thoughts, your fears, and how there are things in your life you have no control over. Like your nature is a moving train and you can't stop it. Some of these notions are antiquated and at times not even exclusive to being a man. The desolation, the yearning, a particular way of loving, the loneliness, and the need for solitude. You can actually see so much of that in Annie, Jada Pinkett Smith's character. She confides in Max all of her insecurities as a prosecutor, such as her struggles with imposter syndrome, only to conclude that no matter her anxiety, she will brave whatever comes her way. She is good at what she does and no one can stop her. Except maybe a murderous Tom Cruise, but you know, that's not really something you see every day. By the end of the film, Max has become an accessory to murder, has impersonated an assassin, killed a person, and saved someone's life. He's not wearing his glasses anymore, and he's not wearing his coat because he's using it to protect the woman he saved. And also to show that Jamie Foxx is fucking buff. Look at the biceps on this dude. His posture is different, he's alert, collected, and protective. He has assimilated things that Vincent did, and now there's no turning back. He's never gonna be the same again, and that's both good and bad. As different as Max may be from the classic Michael Mann protagonist, it is interesting to see him eventually fitting into this familiar mold. It is no surprise these characters are a reflection of Mann himself, the filmmaker who tackles the minutiae of cinema with the same care, passion, and grit that an expert thief would to his own craft of cracking safes, stealing money, and disappearing. It's something you have to do well, otherwise you are doomed, you have failed, you lost. There's a drive to do the one thing you believe in, the one thing you're good at, the one thing you can't stop thinking about and can't get away from, a voice inside your head that tells you why you're still here. Collateral is a deeply important film to me. It sits alongside Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, Magnolia, Drive, Eyes Wide Shut, Night of the Hunter, and many others that are part of the pantheon of my favorite films of all time. And I know it might sound like the guy who has only watched Boss Baby and is now watching his second movie, but my point is that watching Collateral years ago was a formative experience to me as someone who enjoys cinema and art. And generally speaking, art touches people. To say that it's supposed to touch people is perhaps a bit of a stretch. If you really think about it, art is not really supposed to do anything. It happens to touch people who engage with it and are lucky enough to find a meaning that will stick with them. It could enrage you, it could make you sad, it could even make you happy, once again if you're lucky. So to give art this universal goal is to desecrate it by limiting its reach. Art is supposed to do whatever it does. It's chaotic just like that. And you should be thankful for ever feeling anything at all when you were watching a movie or a play or reading a book. Even when you were angry, when you thought it sucked, when it made no sense and you were just confused, or when it felt like a revelation. Because all of this is better than apathy. It's better than feeling nothing at all. You should embrace this chaos. Just think about Vincent's words.
Get with it. Millions of galaxies of hundreds of millions of stars and a speck on one in a blink. That's us, lost in space. A cop, you, me. Who notices?
And then look at the beginning of the film where he almost takes another cab. For a moment, he was going to find a different driver. For a moment, Max almost let him go. For a moment, None of this would have happened, but it did anyway. These two men are going through their own personal battles against apathy. Vincent hates the civilization he himself is destroying, so he navigates it as if he's a ghost, as if he was never there in the first place. He does his job as if it's something perfectly normal and basically inevitable. He talks about his targets as if they're people who will simply come and go, and their deaths won't matter in the grand scheme of things. And they might not.
That's the why. There's no reason. There's no good reason, there's no bad reason to live or to die.
Then what are you?
They're different.
Max is stuck in his job, talking about his dreams without ever actually doing anything to achieve them. Not taking chances and just waiting for a tomorrow that never comes. Or maybe it already came and he missed it. That's when Annie becomes the heart of the movie. When Vincent runs away, Max just wants to go to jail or wherever he can go to get away from this. But as soon as he finds out she is the last target, that's when he decides to confront Vincent. Max found someone worth fighting for because fighting for himself was not enough. Apathy has taken over these men's lives, regardless of how atrocious or inconsequential their actions are or how they understand them. Don't forget what I said before. Collateral is a morality tale, but it's not about good and evil. Vincent is a lost cause. He lets apathy win and dies with it. Max has a chance to stop going through the motions and stop dreaming all the time. And taking this chance changes everything. I will never forget Collateral. It's the story that made me realize that before you can avoid becoming someone else's victim, you must avoid becoming your own victim. And that is a choice you make every single day.